Welcome everyone to Tarot Journeys with Guy. How's everybody doing? Here we are, another tarot reading, another tarot journey. So things going on, so much going on. I had to kind of check out a little bit. I think a lot of us feel that way. I still pay attention, obviously. Yeah, it's funny. I have to kind of go through little media blackouts, internet blackouts periodically. Sometimes like throughout the week, I have to take hours, days, moments, because it's so much, right? It's so overwhelming. Man. So, okay, let's just jump right into it here. We're going to do just a little checkup weekly. What are we getting ourselves into for the next week? What's, a recap of this week? What do we need to hear? Energies, right? I mean, we just went through, I guess it was a full moon. What do we got to look forward to this next week? So the other thing I didn't mention too is, like, in the States, the whole government shutdown. Apparently they're going to keep the government open for another 45 days. And like, hey, I'm of the libertarian, I guess, nature, where I think less government, better, right? And like, so, but that enables them to keep these hearings going. And I mean, it plays on both sides. I think the deep state bad actors, they wanted to close the shutter down, right? I mean, the other thing is this money that's going to Ukraine when it should be with the people, within the gut. Like, I mean, there's a lot of problems that need to be attended to. I mean, we could list off a whole bunch of them, right? But that's something that, like, this week, that's what we're going to hear, right? And so, I mean, this last week, what we really saw was how each time they pulled out something new, there was, okay, so remember the last couple readings, I always kind of talk about how this shadow war, this deep state war, and especially the information war, relies upon getting people into a reactive state that's one level of it, right? And so what we have witnessed is the tides turning, where we're starting to see the deep state react more to us, to the patriots, to the Trump side, to the people that are fighting the globalism and the deep state, right? So at each time something new comes out, that the deep state has to react. This is what we've been seeing. We're seeing the intricacies, the details of their, like, how they do this stuff, right? And that's the other thing. It's tricky because there's double agents and there's operatives and there's people and events set up as Trojan horses or things to sort of attack us on the freedom side of the patriot side, right? And that's what we're dealing with, okay? This is really good, though. This is actually some positive motions towards really, well, because like what has needed to happen too is this thing of setting precedent, okay? So we need to have all of these precedents set in order for them to be caught. You need to compile the evidence and then line it up and set it up against the precedents that have been set in a legal sense, right? So that this can be dealt with legally, right? And that's a big part of it, okay? So onward, there's a lot more of that. That's craziness. They're gonna pull out all sorts of stuff about Hunter Biden and the Bidens still. There's been so much information that's come out. I think the other thing is, like, offsetting the next candidate, right? Like, there's going to be another candidate for the Democratic Party, but who is it? Who is it going to be, right? And that's the big thing. And it, they might get put into a corral, into a trap where Biden actually runs, right? The other thing too is the whole RFK Jr. I always get those two mixed up. RFK Jr. saying that he's going to run as an independent. Okay, that's huge. I mean, what was that guy's name? Ross Perot 2.0. Like, right? Like that is the kind of similar circumstances, and all of it only plays into the defeat of these guys. So, right, this is legit what we're witnessing. So that's something, right? That's really something. Because the money, right? Like they're pushing us closer and closer to some kind of an event or something that's going to lock us into their digital central bank currency thing, right? Like, and attempting to push us away from that old system, like the cash system and all of that. But the thing is like, that's what they're trying to get us to react to. Okay, so, and I'm talking, the reason why I'm kind of the reason why I'm talking about it like this is because of this Two of Pentacles, right? Because it's always about shifting and the juggling, the back and the forth, the duality, okay? And not, and so what people actually see, and this is part of that awakening, is that what these guys are actually trying to do is destroy our way of life. And our way of life is good. And it's good for families and children and breaking through this BS that seems to be always shoveled onto us. That's a big wake-up call. That's what many of us are kind of waking up to, is like how we've been inadvertently taking part in the self-destruct, and that we want to stop that. That has to stop, and that's what's stopping. And we can't blame, I mean, I guess what has driven me in these last 7 years is waking up to where I have helped create this. And then the work of forgiving myself and forgiving others around me, which I'm still in the process of doing, because it's so difficult. Not impossible. It's very challenging. And sometimes it can be easy, because I'm not going to give up. That's something that was ingrained in me. I fostered. It's helped me a lot throughout my life. That's the process that we're in right now. And with certain things, like with the people, this is why I keep saying it's like, there's a big difference between the people and like the government and the deep state and what's being projected out. And like, so like these people you meet, and like, they're people. People are people. And regardless of how a person chooses to be in the world or not, and where they come from, we're all part of the same family. And that's what we have to really reflect on. We're all fighting the same fight. We're all being put through the same mill. Doesn't matter what side of the division you may sense. And I think that's a big part of it. That's the big wake up, right? And that we have to kind of stay on that vibe. Huge shift in narrative coming around the war. And I mean, we're already starting to see it. They were doing this in 2016, and the Russiagate, and the hoax that they perpetuated, came up in the Durham report and the Committee for the Weaponization of Government. Right? It came up, and so that's what they're going to try to do it again. That there's foreign influence in the election. Russia, China, Russia though. And all these people are Russian paid agents and stuff like that. But that's the thing, like the wake up, seeing, like, I hope in Canada, like, I mean, with this thing with the commemorating a Nazi in the House of Commons, the very enemy that we fought in World War II, which Canada, in a lot of ways, Canada is based around that. and these same people going around calling everybody like a Nazi or a racist or a phobe, some kind of phobe. It doesn't make sense, and it's becoming so apparent, and the gaslighting and the lies that come out of these politicians, and it's just like, it's so obvious. Like Biden, he talks out one side of his face constantly. We know, us that aren't in the everyday per se. Maybe I call it the fringe, the not normies, maybe. I don't know. I don't like using the normie term, but right, we get that he's a puppet. We get that that might not be the actual Biden. We get that somebody else is pulling his strings. You know, I mean, there's a lot of speculation on where and what and how, but we know, right? And so that's the thing that the everyday people are kind of getting to. It's like, and just the awful criminal behavior of these people coming to light, like the real deal, right? That's what's happening. And the very people that have been going after people and have been saying this and saying that usually are guilty of what they're accusing others of. And so we know with Justin Trudeau and that House of Commons that they're all a bunch of totalitarian, commie, fascist, Nazi types. Yep. Well, look what they've instituted in this country. That's what people have to wake up to. That's what's happening, right? So that's a it's positive. I don't know how positive it is. I mean, yeah, just like how divisive these people are and like what they have actually done. They fully have implemented in Canada, right? Like it's pretty much happening. These weird ESG, DEI policies that are inserted by BlackRock, Vanguard, WEF, World Economic Forum, Davos Group cronies, Bilderberger types, Rockefeller type, like these people, and like creating like division and creating racism, like creating it in places where it doesn't exist. It's the woke, right? The woke culture that is being sussed out in like actually, but like how ingrained it is in the economic system in our like everyday lives. That's a big part of it. Oh yeah, and like the money with the Hollywood strike. It's so funny how these guys like go forward because it's time to produce more propaganda, except there's not as much money for you freaks. And like the same thing like with the video game market, right? But see, and that's like the system has to be collapsed in some way, shape, or form, right? The propaganda machine has to be taken apart. Its ties with the military-industrial complex and the intelligence community is too great, and it's part of the manipulation. So it's part of the takedown. And this is also another thing of like, is this a piggybacked operation? Is this part of it? Like, where are the patriots in the Hollywood scene? They got to be there, right? Or, you know, these agents placed there, like Operation Mockingbird 2.0. Right? They're placed there. Well, they're going to switch. A lot of these guys that work in the intelligence and military and stuff like that, they have their intent starts out really good. Like, I mean, they have their best interests of their country in mind and their families. A lot of these guys. But we're talking bottom levels, right? But as you get closer and up, your moral compass needs to be frazzled in order to implement evil. Look at what the SS had, what they did to train their people and keep in the whole population. This is what we're going through, right? So, but the switch is happening. Everybody's kind of like the light bulb is kind of coming on, right? So, narrative switch on the war front, and we have to kind of stay ahead of these guys because they are probably going to start another war somewhere. Even if they can't get away with a world war, there's some kind of conflict that they want to keep bringing. I mean, we know what's going on in China with China and in the Pacific and all of this. And, you know, it's crazy. To me, what's been going on with Ukraine, I mean, part of it, like this deep state playground of laundering money and human trafficking and bioweapons production and just like an operation zone for these guys, is also a way of vacating old equipment and getting rid of all of the Cold Cold War era equipment and moving us into 21st century warfare and using modern equipment, right? And they make a lot of money off of this. This is why we're seeing this. This is why we're seeing antiquated equipment in Ukraine, right? But it's part of a ruse. And seeing that, and then that way, I think Russia's a part of that. And I know, people want to think, well, Putin is, because he's talking against the deep state, he must be a good guy. No, this guy is not a good guy. He comes from the KGB. There was a thing in Latin America where he was commemorating all of the revolutionary heroes, and he added Fidel Castro and Che Guevara. These guys are monsters, man. They're genocidal, right? And this power play that we see geopolitically, it's underneath of it, it's not anything. It's an agreement that these guys make. That's what needs to wake up. And I hope I'm wrong, but I don't know if I am. I'm not sure. I don't trust governments, period. Very few. And there's been very few politicians in my time that have spoken truth. And that's why when he got into office and he started speaking out, and there was just a couple of things that he said that made me go, wait a second, I've been waiting 40 years for somebody to say that. Okay, so a little more of the same. I guess this big narrative shift. Let's see, one more. What else do we need to hear? What guidance is going to help us? What's coming up? Anything that's sort of important to check into? Okay, for this week, no matter what bad news that we hear, we are to not give up. We are not to give into it. And we're not to stop the work that we know that we need to do right now. We have to keep going, no matter what. Okay? Whatever's going to happen. A lot of people are already, losing faith. I mean, what do they call that? Fickle. A lot of fickle people out there. No, you'll see. You'll see how whatever is perceived from our side as a hit is actually going to benefit us, but we have to keep going with it. We have to keep the push on. A lot of people are afraid to let go of things that have been established for them. That's a huge part of it. I think they might gag Trump. I think that might be one of the things that happens. I think that might, I'm not sure though. I don't even want to actually put that out there. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think he's going to, it's only going to play into his favor, right? So if that does happen, they're really attempting to take over the social space. It's their last vestige, man, besides, getting people on board with their op. That's a big part of it. And so people, we have to sort of remain undaunted, undeterred, right? And just kind of keep going and realize that part of all of this does kind of lead to a spiritual solution, a spiritual answer, in the sense of, on one level, this is all here to provide us the template, the workbook for our spiritual progression, for our spiritual awakening. That is so important, right? I mean, many of us, right? We've sat back and wondered, what the hell's going on? Why is, certain time periods have been so boring, right? That kind of thing, right? And, I wish something would happen. Well, guess what? It's been happening. It's happening right now. And, right? And that's a thing. And I mean, I don't mean to sound facetious. I know some people do have young ones, right? Very difficult challenges of raising a family right now and all of that stuff, right? And so it's hard to say, oh man, this is exciting, right? But you just got to keep going on and not let it deter you. Yeah, people do need to sort of walk away from a lot of stuff that has been hanging on to them. It's time to cut ties with certain elements of the past that no longer serve. That's like a big part of it. Like in this next, especially couple months, but like in this week, that's going to come up for some people, right? And just kind of realize, like, what I'm saying is that there's a difference between the propaganda and the worldview that people go and try to project onto other people versus the actuality of life and connecting with those people. That's like a big thing, right? And that's something like with young people, they got to realize, like, you're being subjected to a brainwashing operation where you are becoming a force multiplier, a projector of the same information, but it's not coming from you. It's not based on truth, right? In fact, it's damaging you, and it's very anti-human. And it's there to destroy us, right? And I mean, I guess with a lot of this stuff, we gotta be gentle, especially with kids, right? Because I mean, a lot of the younger generation too, they don't want to hear from older people, right? But they will come around. There's a lot of great kids out there, man. Still, it's always been like this. That's the other thing too. It's always been like this, right? That's a thing. That's a thing coming on, right? And so, and for some people, like, this is the time to start seeking outward, shifting energies, shifting into better places, right? Better places in our being, better places in the world, right? That kind of thing. Yeah. It's just the opportunity to make sort of a new sort of beginning on many levels is kind of presenting itself. But yet, part of the trick is to kind of get us to think that it's not for our best interest, right? Like, that's the spiritual lesson of, temptation and dealing with moving towards our wholeness, right? We have to be sort of challenged, and there has to be those little sort of areas that need to be strengthened, and there has to be a place where we have to kind of be taken off the track so that we can be put on the track. All of that other stuff, I mean, even though it has weight, it's not as important as the spiritual side and our own spiritual growth. Okay, I think that's it for today, and I hope you enjoyed. So make sure you subscribe, hit the like button. I hope you have a wonderful day or evening, and take care. Bye-bye.